touch upon a few basic things which are very generic in nature, and I will start presenting that. Alrighty then. So this is something which everybody at some point or the other has encountered, smart goals, and just by laying them out, which everybody does, is probably how I will start, so that if anybody does not know it or if anybody has forgotten about them, we'll put that into perspective, and then we'll look into the finer details of these as we go along. So if you know about SMART goals already, because it is usually covered in the first month itself in most B schools, just put a thumbs up so that I can know in the chat box. It'll be lovely. Ah, Mr. Priyank. Great. 3 people know about it. Right. So when we talk about SMART goals, which a lot of people are aware of, and the words are quite self-explanatory, but they have good amounts of in-depth meaning out there. Because first things first, which is specific, right? So by specific, uh, goal defining becomes really specific, while you not just point fingers on a particular thing. By specific means it's determinable, it is defined clearly, and exists in a particular environment. For example, if I were to give an example, right, I'm just consider college placements. I want a, for example, a double digit package, or I want a package of 20 lakhs plus, depending on various pay schools, whatever the bracket may be, everybody wants to be an above average, get higher amounts of money. That's not exactly a specific goal, because it does not identify the environment, because it does not identify the background, my profile, and what I'm actually going to get into. A specific goal in this case would actually be that I want XY digit minimum of package in an IT company, which is service based, so that I can have enough time for myself to grow my second hustle. That becomes a very specific goal in the sense, because it defines what you want to achieve, where you want to achieve, and what all the external environment which is influenced, and also the why, that why do you want that particular goal. Right, let me just check now if anybody else. Here we have 10 people. This is a request, presentation in full slides. Sure, I'll do that. Yeah, so here it is in full slides. I'm just gonna check up once so that I will check the messages if anybody sends. So while streaming this video, I'll have to connect through another media. So I'm just connecting. Moving on to measurable goals. Just get somebody's- Of joining requests. I don't think I'll be able to present in full screen mode because joining requests keep popping in and we'll have to adhere to those as well. That makes it very difficult to do on full screen mode. When talk about actually in measurable goals, the key thing about measurable goals is that it has milestones which define the progress, and it also enables you to evaluate, reevaluate with due course of time. For example, coming back to our pre-decided placement oriented goal, I cannot just stick to an end goal of a placement by just preparing for an interview. I have to make sure that with due course of time, I'm acquiring relevant skills. With due course of time, I'm requiring adding more relevant points in my CV. With due course of time, I'm improving my soft skills. This makes this goal measurable, and all these elements have to be considered before actually setting up a goal and having it on paper. Okay, any more? Let's just go full throttle now. Okay. The third part of an important goal is action oriented. An action oriented goal is something which makes you take up immediate action. A goal cannot depend completely on the circumstances or the environment. That is not a goal, that's just waiting for a fortune. Action oriented involves the person who has set up the goal at multiple stages to pick up not just a regular action which they were already doing, but to take an action which involves a sea of change most of the time. Coming back to our old goal of placement, it does fit as an action oriented goal where the actions have to be defined as the individual tasks which need to be done through the way which enhance the candidature. While I say of candidature, it includes both hard soft skills as well as the presence on a CV. Again, moving non-realistic is a very self-explanatory term. I cannot aim for a package from my B school which does not come to my B school. That's not realistic for me to aim for, 50 lakh package in a tier 2 B school. I cannot simply aim for it. Also, I cannot aim for, getting into an IT company when I have no background of information technology, computers, and I am bad at mathematics. There is no way I'm getting there. So that takes it into the non-realistic zone. Why is being realistic important in goal setting is not that I don't want to set high standards for my own goals, but not setting up such standards clearly deters you from your goal, from your path, time and time again, and also affects the other parts of your goal. A goal has to definitely be time based, which is the fifth and quite an important facet of a goal. By being time based, it ensures that I'm putting my time and energy through a specific process for a particular time to know what I am achieving. Coming back to the goal of placements, everybody knows that the placement has to occur within the 2 years of a B school. In some cases, placement weeks are well defined in colleges. So that goal is time based. And for people who are into the first years, you know that you have 1 year and a few months to hit that final nail. People who are in the final years know that they have just a month or so before they can do it. So they plan their activities and spread across that time period which is left for them. While discussing a lot about placement as a goal with an example, a larger picture which I will also be touching is the career aspect of it, and the career aspect will include both this first job, which is very important for a B school student, as well as the secondary step, which is mid and long term goals. So as I'm now done with my first slide, I would ask if anybody has any questions or anything that you want to say about this. Look, if anybody has any questions, any feedback, any point they want to add, they want to add a dimension or perspective or scope. Okay, we'll move on. So key mentions in the SMART goals, which I've already discussed, is the specificity of the environment. The environment has to be gotten into consideration while setting up or even shortlisting goals. My environment influences me in a lot of ways. Like, for example, if we take the goal of the placement, my environment is A, where I'm living and pursuing the course, the B school which I'm pursuing the course. My environment also comprises of my past history competencies. So the environment has to be added to make sure that the goal becomes actually specific in nature. There are some things which are set and defined in stone that will happen, and that need to be brought into consideration while setting up each goal. Milestones are a part which add to the measurability of a goal. What these do actually is to try and check at each and every point whether or not things are going in line with the end goal or not. Sometimes these milestones are confused as end goals themselves. So to really differentiate between a milestone and an end goal is that a milestone will always have an obvious second or the next for the forthcoming step, which does not happen in case of the goal. For example, coming back to our goal of a final placement, a key milestone, which may also look like a goal, is to have, let's say, 5 points in the co-curricular zone of your CV. While having those 5 points themselves look like a goal, but you obviously know that after you have those 5 points in your CV, there is another point that you need to cover to get your final placement. So that is why it is not a goal and just a milestone. A big feature where a lot of people lack is accountability in terms of managing their goals. Why do I bring this point here is that if I have a particular goal, I'm not going at it 100% if I'm not accountable for it. And how do I enhance the accountability of this goal? One of the best ways to do that is to share with people what my goal is. Because if other people know my goal and they're seeing my progress, I feel more accountable for the same. While the internal objective is to do it for myself, but when other people know it and other people are seeing me do it, I push myself further to make sure that I do achieve my goal in the stipulated time. A major kickback to a lot of goals is the fear of taking action. The human mind is the biggest receiver of inertia. We are not very comfortable with change. To be very honest, it is the mammalian nature of the human brain that helps us or makes us actually avoid change. However, once we get over that block from mammalian mind and get into the cognitive sphere, fears don't affect us that much. That is why it is very important to remove the fear of action and take bold and significant action that makes sure that we are completely and thoroughly in line with achieving our goal. The last point is a very interesting one, and it's called the ladder theory. The ladder theory says that there are many ladders that you have to climb while going for your goal. However, if you think that at every step you need to climb that step to the very best, only then you can achieve your goal, that's not really true. Your foot might slip on the third step, but that does not mean you're not going up. If you think you didn't do the third step right, you might want to come down, do the third step right, but that will actually take you a long time, in fact, a very long time to reach your goal. Every step that you complete has to be looked at the sense of completion. However, that does not mean that you will do it in a way which is just acceptable or not at the best. However, going back again and again to the same step of the ladder may not be very feasible so that your goal is achieved. Also, ladder theory also states that while you climb up those ladders, it is important that you predetermine how you're going to step at those points. You cannot climb 3 steps at a time on a ladder and expect to climb many ladders that way. Similarly, you can't expect to jump from one ladder to the other while doing so. So it is important to define your way to do that and stop jumping ladders and actually start taking one step at a time to make sure that you achieve your goal. While I have spoken quite amount of time to speak about SMART goals and its extension, we'll start running quicker now and we will move to the other types of goals that I have in consideration. First, for MBA students, your short-term goals, which let us define as placements. Second, a big factor that a lot of people try to ignore, that in the next 5 to 10 years, you will be moving ahead with your family in some way or the other. It is possible that you get married. It is also possible that you have kids. It is also possible that you may look at family at completely differently. So whenever you make a goal which is beyond, not considering your family and your family aspirations and expectations of your family is not a great idea in context of India. By midterm goals, I want to tell you that it is very critical to assess that after your first job, what are you actually going to do? Your first job can range from 2 to 3 years if you want to switch, or you have entrepreneurship ideas in plan. So if you're in first or second year, around 5 to 6 years down the line, you will take a very critical career decision. And seeds of those career decisions have to be sown now. It's not necessary that you may take the exact same decision which you are taking right now, but it is very crucial that you sow some seeds so that you have something to reap after 5 to 6 down the years. After around 10 years, it will be a stage in your life where you'll be strongly investing, because that time it's the maturity time of both of you as in a career. Your income is going to be significantly high and you will have a lot of needs based on family or deeper career aspirations. And going ahead with that, there'll be long-term career goals, which can include if you want to create your own company, you want to establish $1 million business, or you want to get in the field of education and things like those. So as I have discussed, many these stepping stones, these actually define or exemplify the time-based role of goals. And now that we have covered these, I would again like to stop for a bit for any questions, any comments, if any. Right, I don't really see any questions or comments, and I think it will be good to move on so that we can wind up fast. Right. So in your MBA, these are my five fulcrums that help you achieve what you want to achieve, and all of them are linked with your placements. Let me take each of them one by one. How are academics important? Again, I have put this at one because I believe that this is the least important, but also the most important. Is the least importance in terms of the amount and the extensivity in which they need to be put into consideration. However, they are the most important hygiene questions come from academics only. For example, the basic definitions of the stream you're from. For example, for marketing students, definition of marketing and sales and their difference is something where you cannot screw up and should have good examples about both if you're opting for such a stream. Second, it is case competitions. Again, I have done significant number of case competitions and not saying that having a winning note on a case competition really adds to your candidature, but it helps you a lot in a way that while you do cases, you are tuning yourself to problem solving, which is a key competency a lot of companies look at. And secondly, you are also looking at solving problems on the spot in the Q&A functions that happen in case competitions. You might be put under pressure or you might be asked very spontaneous questions during your interviews. And the experience of a case competition is very similar, where you're actually going for the nail and you are in a similar sort of pressure. Third is probably my favorite, and it's primary research. In my experience, primary research is something which all recruiters across domains absolutely love. That's because the research scenario within an organization in India is not the greatest in the world. Even if you're opting for something as humanistic as HR or sales, primary research enhances your candidature because every point in a management systems, if you can generate essential valuable feedback which can be used as business intelligence, you will always be valued a lot by your existing or prospective company. Co-curriculars and extracurriculars have a very significant impact on making your potential recruiter understand your personality and what kind of fit you will be for a company. While they may not ask you a lot of questions about it, they use it to assess and match you with the existing company values. And the fifth part, which I have put and is called experiences, does refer to a lot to work experiences, does refer to your internship experiences, but very importantly, it refers to your life experiences, which you can very easily, which you should gain and make sure that you put into interviews, because that's something a lot of cross questions are not asked, and yet it's something which is listened to with keen interest. However, an icing on the cake can be if you have an entrepreneurial experience in your life and you can use it to crack whatever you want. The marriage of success and happiness. This is something which I personally profess a lot. I would not like to talk about it a lot because this is quite self-explanatory. And but again, one point that I will stress upon is a strong support system. Whatever you want to do in life, make sure that your support system is really, really strong in terms of friends and family so that you can actually go on and achieving what you want to achieve. And most of the terms are something which you're already familiar with. And I just want to put this in a particular diagram and especially refer to the power segment, which is the overlapping part. Power is actually the influence you're able to exert on anybody, and in the case of a placement, on your potential recruiter. And that is something you can do by putting hooks in your answers, wherein you want the recruiter to ask you more and more questions. Okay, talking of job selection mantra, what job you may take as your placement is a very important goal, and it's the better the earlier it is set for your career. Disposable time is a term coined by me itself, and it actually refers to what you aim to do with your first job. Your intention may be to make your job your primary hustle or your secondary hustle. So you have to evaluate that what kind of industries and what kind of roles give you what kind of time and what kind of time commitments they have. For example, consulting and advertising are two fields I'm very well aware of, which take a lot of time, which burn a lot of time, and should be pursued only if they are your primary hustles. However, there are other fields which operate on a very strict time basis, which leave a lot of disposable time for your secondary hustles. Second point here being is company and role fit. By company fit, I just do not mean that the business the company is in, or the function it is operating, or the products it has, or the services it provides. It also refers to where the company stands in perspective of the entire industry, the market, its growth, and how you plan to fit in terms of your careers. If you can align your goals with the goals of the company and associate with it, A, you have a great chance of getting into that company and cracking that particular interview. Also, you have a great chance at being very happy in that role and company because you have convinced yourself that this is the right thing for you. Growth and diversification is a point which is critical for your midterm goals. A lot of industry have some advantages and disadvantages when it comes in terms of growth and switching. Every industry does not offer a similar kind of growth, nor does every role. And diversification, there are some industries like FMCG, retail, e-commerce, and to an extent product-based IT, which are strongly push you towards diversification. These companies are like O positive blood group, and people from here can actually go to a lot of places and fit very comfortably, which may not happen vice versa. And this thing is very important while you pick your first job in the managerial sector, that what kind of diversification options you're looking at. If you are certain, you can opt for a company which supports your other ambitions more but is not a source of very good diversification, so that you can build on top of an existing foundation you built in your initial years. So diversification is the perspective of how do you want to build a career foundation. If you can find a company which fills all your needs, you will be very lucky and very happy in at least the short term. Okay, so this is common questions, but usually I name it as Vishesh's Big Five. These are the five questions. If you know well, you have a very good chance at making into the company that you aspire to be in. The most important one is ranked one, and it is the introduction. If you were to ask me in your introduction, apart from your name and your perhaps the program you're pursuing, you should put only two distinct points about yourself and leave two hooks. So basically, four things: two complete and two incomplete. The incomplete ones to ask further questions. Once again, if I talk about why I have mentioned that why this role, why and me as a person is interested in this role at a particular company, The biggest relevance of this point is again the one I mentioned in the previous slide, is if I can align my goals with the goals of the company, again, very good chance of this happening for you. When we speak of why this company, or simply that why do you want to work with us, it is not important to know the entire portfolio of the company, but important to understand the market matrix of where the company lies with respect to others, and why it is there, and where is it going to be in the next few years. If that is answered well, that really pleases a lot of people in the recruiting sector. And finally, whatever you leave in the introduction, apart from in those, by picking those four exclusive points, you need to leave a couple of two nuclear weapon powerful points in why should a company pick you. However, a very important point which learned from experience is that however great a competency you may possess, never lose your humility, because it can really bite you back. So that was it from my end